Welcome back to the MOOC course on Corporate Social Responsibility. My name is Aradhana Malik and I'm helping you with this course. And we were talking about stakeholder salience in the last class. Now in this class, we are going to talk about management of stakeholders. Now we know what stakeholders are, what they can do, how much they can influence. Now we'll talk about how we manage stakeholders as an organization. If you're part of an organization that is designing CSR programs, or this is actually applicable to management in general and also to CSR. How do you manage your stakeholders? So let's see what we have here. Stakeholder management, and what we will discuss in the beginning is the comprehensive stakeholder management process model. This has been proposed by Preble in a paper published in 2005. So I'll just show you that model. Okay. Preble says that step 1 of stakeholder management is stakeholder identification. We need to know who our primary stakeholders are, who our public stakeholders are, and who our secondary stakeholders are. So we need to know what we are dealing with. Step 2 of this model deals with the general nature of stakeholder claims and power implications. When we talk about nature of stakeholder claims and power implications, we are essentially talking about how equitable they are, how economically viable they are. We are also talking about stakeholders who can influence the process. We are talking about, how these stakeholder claims are equitable. Can we address them in an equitable manner or not? We are talking about the economic viability of these stakeholder claims and the power these stakeholders have, or the implications of addressing these claims on the power that the stakeholders currently have or may have, then the influence that these claims are likely to generate, and the power implications of that influence. Step 3 is to determine performance gaps. We need to define stakeholder expectations. We discussed stakeholder expectations in a previous lecture. We will take that up again in the next lecture. We list what each stakeholder expects from us. In the previous class, we described some classes of stakeholders in a very general manner. What you can do is, at your end, you can take these classes and you say, okay, so and so stakeholder has power but no legitimacy and no urgency. How can the stakeholder exercise that power? Make a list of those things. What could the stakeholder be expecting from us, and how is the stakeholder likely to use their power, his or her power, if these expectations are not met? Why is the stakeholder expecting something from us? What kinds of expectations are there? Are they legitimate? Are they urgent? Can not addressing them result in us as the corporation having to do certain things that we would not have done otherwise? Conduct performance audits of the organization, reveal gaps, explore or conduct performance audits of the way these stakeholders have been handled. Reveal gaps, explore stakeholder influence strategies. Try and find out how stakeholders can be influenced. Okay, and why. Prioritize stakeholder demands. Now this is where the previous lecture's learning comes into place. So you determine stakeholder salience. How important are these stakeholders? Do they have all three? Power, legitimacy and urgency, or do they have any two? If they have these two, then how do we need to address them, etc. So determine how strong they are, or what is their strength as you perceive it based on the attributes that they have. Assess the strategic importance of various stakeholders. What kind of strategic importance do they have for your organization? What will happen to your organization if you do not address the demands or the needs of these stakeholders? Step 5, develop organizational responses. Find out how to get in touch with the stakeholders, how to respond to them. One is direct communication. Who communicates with whom and how? Collaboration and partnering is another method of developing organizational responses. How will you collaborate? At which level? What will you collaborate on? Set performance goals. Find out how you will perform, in your relationship with the stakeholders. What do you want the stakeholders to do for you? What do you want to do for the stakeholders? Develop policies, strategies and programs for addressing the needs of the stakeholders. Allocate resources for dealing with stakeholders or for addressing the needs of the stakeholders. You may even need to revise your statement of purpose of the organization. Okay, so what are you heading towards? Step 6 is monitoring and control. So, after you have developed organizational responses, what you need to do is you need to monitor these responses and you need to control them. Continually check stakeholder positions, evaluate strategic progress, conduct social and environmental audits. So, find out how the responses you have been giving to your stakeholders are affecting the stakeholders, are affecting their positions, are affecting their salience. Find out how this relationship is affecting the strategic progress of the organization. Find out how your decisions and your relationships with the stakeholders are affecting the environment. Conduct environmental audits. How are they affecting the society that you live in? Okay. All right. Step 7. Take the learnings from step 6 and go back to step 1, which is identify your stakeholders in light of the new things that you have learned in step 6. Maybe a stakeholder that you thought was important turns out to not be so salient, turns out to not have the kind of power you thought they had. Fair enough. Put them in a different category, reprioritize your stakeholders, and then go back to step 1 and see where you're headed and repeat the cycle. This is one method of stakeholder management. Okay. Now, how do you assess your stakeholders? How do you find out which category they are in? Factors affecting stakeholders. This is from a paper by Savage et al. Savage and Associates. So, how do you assess your stakeholders? You find out, you analyze the factors that can affect stakeholders' potentials for threats and cooperation. A list has been given here. Parameter: stakeholder controls key resources, and here we have these columns. One says the stakeholders' potential for threat, stakeholders' potential for cooperation. So, if the stakeholder controls key resources, the stakeholders' potential for threat is likely to be increased. Stakeholders' potential for cooperation is likely to be increased. If the stakeholder does not control key resources, the stakeholders' potential for threat decreases. They don't control your key resources, so they can't really threaten you, but they might be willing to cooperate with you. So, that is why the word either is here. Okay. Stakeholders are more powerful than the organization. In that case, their threat increases, but they might be willing to cooperate with you, or they may not be willing to cooperate with you. Then, stakeholder is as powerful as the organization. They might be in a position to threaten you, they might not be in a position to threaten you. They might be willing to cooperate with you, they might not be willing to cooperate with you, so it could go either way. If the stakeholder is less powerful than the organization, then their potential for threat to the organization definitely decreases, and their potential for cooperating with the organization increases. Stakeholders are likely to take action supportive of the organization, then their threat to the organization obviously decreases and their potential for cooperation definitely increases. Stakeholders are likely to take unsupportive action. The potential for threat increases and the potential for cooperation decreases. Stakeholders are unlikely to take any action. Both of these decrease. Their potential for threat decreases, their potential for cooperation decreases. Stakeholders are likely to form coalition with other stakeholders. Potential for threat increases, potential for cooperation could go either way. If they form a coalition with somebody else, they may be willing to cooperate with you, they may not be willing to cooperate with you. Stakeholders likely to form coalition with organization, their threat decreases and obviously their potential for cooperation increases because they want to coalesce with the organization. Stakeholders unlikely to form any coalition with the organization or with its competitors, their threat also decreases, their willingness to cooperate also decreases. So these are the way the factors, these are the way their potentials for threat and cooperation are mapped. Now the way you can use it is you find out what the stakeholder is likely to do right here. You find out where the stakeholders you have identified are going, what are they likely to do, and then see this part. So if you want the stakeholder to cooperate, what do you need to do? You need to reduce the power of the stakeholder. You want the stakeholder to cooperate, you can enhance the stakeholders' chances of taking supportive actions for the organization. If you want the threat to go away, you reduce the chances of the stakeholders to take any action. If you want the stakeholders to be, or if you want their cooperation, make sure you create opportunities for them to coalesce with your organization so they can cooperate with you. Give them a chance. You can always push stakeholders from one side to the other. You just need to know what they need and satisfy their needs. It's very nice. It's a very interesting dance that happens between the organization and the stakeholders. Now, how do you manage stakeholders? Diagnostic Typology of Organizational Stakeholders is from the same paper by Savage and Associates. Depending on the stakeholder's potential threat to the organization and depending on the stakeholder's potential for cooperation with the organization, you can devise a strategy. Let's see. Now, this is whatever I am going to discuss next in a map. This is again from the paper by Savage and Associates. Type 1, the supportive stakeholders have low potential threats and high potential cooperation. They are less likely to threaten the organization and very likely to cooperate with the organization. The strategy to deal with these stakeholders is you involve the supportive stakeholder in decision making, in relevant issues, in various aspects of the organization. Keep the stakeholder informed, take their inputs and incorporate as many inputs as possible. These are the stakeholders that are likely to support you. So they are not trying to threaten you, they are only trying to cooperate with you. Okay. Type 2, the marginal stakeholder. They are neither highly threatening nor especially cooperative. They are on the side. They are like latent stakeholders. Their strategy is you monitor the marginal stakeholder and see when they shift. Just find out. Keep them in your vision or keep them in mind. Pay attention to them, but don't really prioritize their needs. Just make sure you notice them and you are alert to what they are doing. So just monitor their activities and see where they are headed. Type 3 is the non-supportive stakeholder. Now this type of stakeholder is high on potential threat and low on potential cooperation. Now this kind of stakeholder is going to be a problem. This type of stakeholder has to be dealt with very, very carefully. For example, competing organizations, employee unions, and sometimes news media may be after you. So the strategy to deal with these people is you defend against the non-supportive stakeholder. Find out what they are not supporting and keep your defenses ready. Type 4 is the mixed blessing stakeholder. They have a high potential for threat and cooperation. They are a mixed blessing. If they choose to cooperate, they are good for your organization. If they don't choose to cooperate, they can be threatening for the organization. So they can really, there can be a problem there. For example, employees with specialized training. They choose to cooperate, they help the organization, they help you produce results. If they go, you don't have anyone to do their job. It's very difficult to find people with this kind of specialized training. Strategy is collaborate with them. Keep them on your side and all should be well. Okay. Now, how do you transform typical stakeholder relationships? 4 strategies have been suggested, or a 4-step plan has been suggested by Savage and Associates, and that is you identify key organizational stakeholders. Find out who your stakeholders are. Then diagnose them along 2 critical dimensions of potential for threat and potential for cooperation, right here. Okay. Find out where they lie, what are they doing, and where they are. Are they the supportive type, marginal type, non-supportive type, or mixed blessing type of stakeholder? And then formulate appropriate strategies both to enhance or change current relationships with those key stakeholders and to improve the organization's overall situation. So find out how these stakeholders can be how their positive attributes or the positive effects of their association with you can be enhanced and changed, and the current relationship changed, and how can you improve the organization's overall situation, and then decide on the strategy and then go ahead and implement the strategy. So that is what you need to do in order to deal with whatever is with the stakeholders that you have here. So in this particular lecture, we have tried to find out how you can manage stakeholders, how you can identify the different aspects of stakeholders, how you can assess what they are doing, and how you can manage your relationship with these stakeholders. That is all we have time for in this lecture. We will continue with some more discussion on stakeholders in the next class. Thank you very much for listening.